The pasuk in this week's Sedra tells us, "Vaydaber Moshe Shalom Leimer Kol Shmi Itchem," and that's you out Midian, it's Nikmat Hashem Midian. That when Moshe Rabbeinu, he led the people out to wage war against the Midianites, he said to the people, "Take out from you Meitchem Anashim men, and they should be on top of Midian to place the Nekoma, the vengeance, the revenge of Hashem on Midian." What does this mean? This lady brings a few ideas, and all of these ideas of waging war is ultimately Milchemet Hashem. The biggest war is the Milchemet Yetzer, to fight against our own inclinations, our own nature, and to overcome that. And so we learn out from there how to accomplish that. But also, in the smaller wars that to us look much bigger, are those national wars. And this lady says that if someone wants to make a war, he has to understand that when we fight a war, it's for Hashem, not for any other reason. And if that's the case, then the person can be assured that he's going to be successful in his war. Again, whether it's the national war or the personal war. Meaning that a person should not have in mind for his own pleasure, for his own, that he should live in peace, his own glory, his own hana, his own benefit. But rather, he should have in mind that he's doing the will of Hashem. That's what's important. So that's what it means. You should take out from you. What does it mean? It means from you. You shouldn't have in mind that you're doing this, you're fighting this war for yourself. Rather, you're doing it in order to serve Hashem. And then you'll be al Midian, then you'll be on top of Midian, that you'll be able to be successful, because the whole point is to say Nikmat Hashem Midian, to put the revenge of God upon the Midianites, and not your own personal revenge. There's a story that I heard. There was two people were fighting, and one, he held himself to be a holy person, and his enemy, when he got on top of him, he spit in his face. And he said that person, even though he wasn't a holy person, but he had a mind like this, he said, you know, the fact that you spit in my face, it means now it's personal. And now I don't feel like I'm fighting for the sake of God, but I'm fighting for my own sake. And then he didn't fight anymore. And even though that's not from our tradition, but ultimately, that's the same, he got that idea from us. That ultimately, we have to be fighting for the glory of Hashem. And when we're fighting for ourselves, within ourselves, everything has to be for the glory of Hashem. When we're dealing with whatever we're doing in life, ultimately everything has to be for the glory of Hashem. And that's what the Kedusha Lady continues. That's what it means. It should be on top of Midian, because they were underneath Midian before that, because the Midianites caused them to sin. And so they didn't have the upper hand spiritually in order to win that battle. And so they had to do tremendous tshuva and make a big tikkun. And by taking it that it's for the sake of Hashem and not for themselves, that would put them on top of Midian, that they could be victorious. Now, when they won that war, after that where we learned the laws of Hechsher Kalim, of how to kosher dishes, because they got a lot of dishes from the Midianites, a lot of pots and pans and things, and how do we make them kosher? Moshe Rabbeinu said, whatever goes in the fire, put it through the fire. Whatever goes in the water, put it through the water. And that's where we learn out the halakhic idea, however something comes in, that's how it comes out also. And that also teaches us a similar lesson in this way. How do we accomplish this of making everything for the sake of Hashem? And I remember I was once sitting with the Pittsburgher Rebbe in Ashdod, which unfortunately Ashdod is being attacked right now. We need to daven for all of Eretz Yisrael, and that's a city that's right on the border. And right down in the south is a very dangerous situation. And I remember I was just about to leave Eretz Yisrael to come back to America, and I was talking to Pittsburgh Rabbi about this, and he said, you know what, you're worried that you're leaving Eretz Yisrael, but the Gemara says every bit medrash is a bechina of Eretz Yisrael. And why are there old people in Babel? And it says, that your life will be long on the land, but because they saw they're coming to daven, they're coming to shul, coming to Beis Medrash, that's the bechina of Eretz Yisrael that gives a richus yomim. Rabbi says, where I live in Kolakowski, New York, there's no Beis Medrash. So then he said, well, when you're salting meat to be kosher, to get out the blood, the halacha is if something comes in while salting the meat, while it's drawing out the blood, if something else, let's say a drop of milk comes in or something else that would either, the milk itself is not treif, but it becomes treif when it mixes with the meat, or something else that is treif comes in contact, the action of drawing out the blood, of pushing something out, of giving out something, gives out that negative, the tarfus also is expelled through that. And so therefore, as long as you're being mashpia of someone else, as long as you're teaching other people, you're sharing Torah with other people, the negative influences won't affect you as much, because as long as you're giving out, so the negative influences also go out. That's what he said. There's something else you could say. So that's a great yisoid, a big lesson. But I think there's something else. We're now in the time of the 3 weeks when we're mourning for Yerushalayim. And when we shed those tears, also the salt and the tears is coming out, the tears over Yerushalayim, over what was lost, the Beis Hamikdash, all the mitzvahs. We always talk about 613 mitzvahs, but Lamaisa, we know the Chavetz Chaim wrote the Sefer Mitzvahs Akoser, a short book of mitzvahs. Why? Because there's most of the mitzvahs we can't do, because we don't have a Beis Hamikdash. A great deal of those hundreds and hundreds of mitzvahs, of those 613, are totally in the Beis Hamikdash, and we don't have it. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael, not to eat from its fruit, not to enjoy its beauty, not to enjoy even its inherent spirituality, around only to be Mekayim the mitzvahs at Tluyas Ba'aretz. That's what the Mishnah says, that Eretz Yisrael, Kodesh Mikol Aratzis, Eretz Yisrael is holier than all lands. Why? Umak Zushasa, Shemaviyim Mimenu, Trumas and Meisters. That from there we have mitzvahs that are connected to Eretz Yisrael. That's the whole point. And that's what we're missing out on, the mitzvahs, those connections to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, those opportunities that we have that are lost because we didn't do it right. So Hashem said, take these little ones that you have left, make the most out of them. If we make the most out of our tefillin and our tzitzis and our davening and our kashrus and our Shabbos and our being nice to one another and tzedakah and everything else, we make the most out of that, and we see that we accomplish that the half of the year with love and with fear. Then we'll win that war against all the forces that are trying to prevent the binyan Beis Hamikdash, which is a fight that's going on in heaven. It's not the fight that's going on so much here. And through our mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim, and through being mashpia on other people, and through being yered demoid, we'll get rid of all those negative influences and be zeicha to all the positivity that we're looking forward to with the binyan Beis Hamikdash.